Prisha. Great to be here with you. My name is Swati Shah.
And what do you do currently?
I am technology leader at TransUnion. I'm US Market CIO, which means I look after technology.
And what was your childhood like in terms of exposure to women in STEM, like at school and at home?
That's a that's a great question, Prisha. So I come from town called Ankleshwar, which is in state of Gujarat in India. And I'm fortunate to be part of and born in the family where my dad was a doctor, majority of female in my family back then, they all were undergrad, right? So a lot of support in terms of exposure towards what it means for in terms of education, even if we don't think about STEM, right? And education in a sense, especially because of my dad and exposure towards what he used to do, it got me more and more curious about how he was able to help a lot of people by what he was working through and practicing, as well as what he would volunteer to help people down. That's where my journey started. As I got into the school, it was more about the exposure at home and exposure within family. It kind of continuously helped me to explore more and more in science and in math and thinking about what it would hold for me. Of course, very early in childhood, I didn't know what it means because my dad was doctor. I always wanted to be doctor, but guess what? I did not get as much grade as what I should, and I was even better as at math than biology, and that's what kind of helped me understand as I was growing up and where I landed in terms of undergrad.
So other than your dad and your family, did you have any other like specifically female role models in your life when you were young? And how did they impact you?
Sure. Uh, my female role model back then and even now is my mom, right? Growing up, she was, along with my dad as a team at home, she was always very supportive of go out and explore something. If you don't like it, I'm here for you. But if you like something in terms of how you explore, where you want to go, you have my support. For example, me starting my career in Mumbai from and going away from home was a very big thing back then. And her being standing next to me saying, yes, that's okay. Go for it. We are behind you, what we can help you. And I think you will just do great. So, having those words and having someone who would support, that was a pretty important thing in terms of me to start my career. I, I did not know so many female role model at work back then, which I am so excited that now we all are able to see more and more than 2 decades back.
How was your experience different from your childhood compared to like high school in terms of your involvement in STEM and activities in high school? And was it harder to express your passions in STEM due to the stereotypes?
I, I would say few things I would share for my high school is I saw more girls dropping out of STEM. So, you know, number of girls in middle school versus high school in STEM, there were quite a bit of drop. Now, from cultural perspective back then, it was more about. But let me tell you, I'm more of introvert, right? And back then, I was very much shy, so it used to take me a lot of effort. Going into high school, it was more about making an effort and making sure that you follow your passion, But then at the same time, my struggle was because of being introvert, how do you raise your hand to ask question? And that's something took a long time for me to understand, about few years until I started my grad school, that how do you continue, not just passion, but how do you make sure that you have a voice and your curiosity comes out, and there is no question that's stupid question, right?
Mhm.
um, so that was, I would say, you could think about it from a perspective that there were because of less girls in STEM. It's more about looking at someone to say, hey, if they have done it, if they could do it, then you are able to do it. That was a struggle for many of us growing up.
Do you remember any specific moments where it was harder to, um, I guess, be interested in STEM or show you were interested in STEM? Or were there any moments where you were like, "Oh, my view of like, oh, I can do this is different from all of your peers?"
I think going into STEM, it's the question about, are you passionate about it? Some people are passionate about it. Some people are really good at it, but their passion may be something else, right? And at some point, I remember when I did my undergrad and I was trying to look for a graduation. So I did my undergrad in mathematics and I was looking for what's next, where I would land. And I still remember back then, computers was a very new thing coming out, growing up in India, right? And my dad's friend and I were talking about it, who lives in United States for a very, very long time. And he and I were talking about it. He talked to me about computers, what it means. And I still remember my question was, what paycheck I would get. And he said, it's pretty good, right? And I'm like, okay. I did not think about, am I passionate about computers, because it was too new. I knew, I being in the mathematics and going into computers, you need to be logical, and it helped me to get into that. I would say, if I ask my peers, they may have very similar story from a different angle perspective. About some would be passionate and they just knew what exactly they want to do, and some like me who would try something to figure it out, is this something you really want to do, right? So I think we all don't know exactly how STEM would work for us, which part of STEM you would like to grow and what you are passionate about it. My recommendation would be try, right? Any education and any part of STEM education is always very beneficial for you to figure it out where you land.
And then what was your major in college? What gave you the confidence to choose to pursue this passion in college or just pursue STEM in college in general?
Yes, my undergrad, I did it in mathematics. I don't know if I knew I was very good at math, but as I told you, I always wanted to be a doctor. I did not get good grades, so my next fallback was more about mathematics. And I still remember in my final year of undergrad, I rem- I finally understood myself that I really enjoy math, and I really started liking math, right? So I was laughing on my own at times, saying, why did I want to go in medicine? I think this is the field that I really enjoy. So I think we all are good at one or two things, and I would say try one field. If it doesn't work out, don't be discouraged. Try another one. And who knows, you may be better at what you do as what you choose as you grow. and figure it out.
Can you describe what a day in your life looks like, including the challenges you face as a female currently in TransUnion?
I think that is a fantastic question, right? Day in my life, it looks like about, I want to say about 50% of my time goes to talk to my business partners and customers of TransUnion. I would say about a quarter of my time goes in terms of working with my peers in terms of building strategy and what it means. And quarter of my other part goes running the business, working with my teams, looking at how do we execute what we build. The challenges comes almost every day, and I think about them as opportunities. Sometimes majority of times those challenges makes me very excited about it. And I think that's how engineers' mind work, right? When they see problem statement, they get excited about it. They want to solve it. Um, so I think I would say working with people, its customer, its associates, my peers, leaders in industry, that is what makes super the whole experience worthwhile in terms of not just doing your job, but actually enjoying your job and what you can give forward, right? Um, there are times when the products that we use in the market that goes down because we made some changes as engineers, and it impacts customer. So how do you support the team in terms of making sure we are thinking about how we don't impact our customers and consumer, right? But at the same time, understanding about what the challenges were, how do we work through it so it doesn't happen again? Because failing one time is fine as long as we learn from it, right? And then how do we incorporate the similar observation and what we learn in the engineering practices for future? So that's how most of my days goes by.
Is your current work field male dominated, and what challenges, if it was male dominated, did you have to overcome to assert yourself in your work field?
Yeah, I think I would say it's still male dominated. I have seen tremendous amount of leaders growing. I personally can talk in my peers. We are almost 50-50% female and male, which is very different than if we think about how leadership looks 10 years back. Uh, but it's still male dominated. I would say couple of things is always I have learned over the years that have be brave to raise your hand, right? And I have taken that because raising a hand to even ask a question, if there is an opportunity that you want to volunteer for, those are the ones gets you to learn more and more, right? um, Talking and that I think initially in my career I used to think 50 times, is my question stupid, before I ask and someone else would ask that question and take the credit for it, right? And then over the years I learned that there is no question that's stupid question, right? You know what you know, and asking a question you are learning more. So I think not holding yourself back about asking question, that's something I try to continue to remind me in day-to-day life when I work with my peers, industry leaders, about having that curiosity and asking those questions. um, the another way is more about there are lot of leaders, male leaders, other leaders who are make them ally, right? There are allies that helps you to learn, not just during the conversation, but even after conversation, in sidebars, build those relationships within the organization, outside the organization. So for you all, it's within your class, outside your class, your seniors, kind of getting to know what's there and building those relationship and network. That's another thing that I continue to work through it, Prisha. And I still have a lot of learning to do. And how do you build those relationships too?
Is there anything that you wish you did differently during your journey in entering your field? So from high school to wherever you are now.
I think going back to our last few minutes of conversation, I would say just raising my hand for any opportunities those were there much earlier, thinking about it. um, can I be perfect? Do I have that knowledge? And those questions comes in my mind, and I lost some opportunities. I think if I would say if one thing I take it back, then raise your hand. I will give you one example. I was growing up and I was very young, and I was sitting and in the front porch of my house back in India. And my dad came and my brother and his friends were playing cricket. I'm sure many of you know cricket, but it's one of the most famous sports in India where every kid would know how to play. And my brother and his friends were playing in the playground, which was part of my house. And I was watching them, and my dad asked me a question about, are you having fun? And when my dad asked me that question, I know it's a safe space. So my response was no. And he's like, then why are you watching them? I'm like, I want to play. And he's like, who is stopping you? And I still remember that feeling in me saying, oh, I can really play. And then he taught me many lessons around, this is your house. So tell them that this is the tax that they pay, that you will be playing with them, right? And they all were younger than me. I have a younger brother. And it's like, just go and play and tell them if they don't let you play, then they can't play in your house, in the playground that's part of your house. So I went there, and from there on, I learned that many times. This is what my grandmother used to say, and I realized that after many, many years that we negotiate with ourselves. Don't negotiate with yourself. We sometimes ask question about, can we do it? Can't I do it? If I do it, would I do it really well? Just don't ask. If you want to do it, jump into it. And then figure it out if that's something you enjoy doing it and you want to continue to it. So I would say one thing, if I go back and if I would have started doing much more earlier, is to start raising hand whenever I wanted to do something and if the opportunity was ahead of me.
What advice would you give to young girls who don't feel confident committing to their passion?
I would say that in last many years, we have made tremendous amount of progress where you will be able to see female leaders in the very similar journey, very similar role that you want to go, and it's a step in the right direction that us as us, or overall society has made. So I would say try to find people who has done it and reach out to them on LinkedIn, reach out to them if you see them in the school, reach out to them if you are going in the conference and if you meet them. I would say more people are willing to share and help than what we think. So if you know where you want to go, start looking for who has done it and reach out to them and ask for help, whatever help you need.
What does a female role model mean to you, and to the girls listening?
By seeing someone like us who is able to do a role that is a dream role or a dream career, that brings in our mind that it can be reality for you. So it's very, very important, right? It's extremely important for all of us. At the same time, if you don't see female role model in the area that you want to go for, just believe that you will be able to do it, and you may be the first one, but then you will help so many others, right? uh, so I think it's extremely important for any of us to see someone like us in a that can be in the role, that can be in the career that we want to go through, Prisha. At least that's how I used to look for. But then I also used to get very excited about, ah, we can be first one, right? Not that I was ever first one, Prisha, but it's okay to have small group and then continue to have to bring more and more support. I would say be brave, raise your hand, make friends, make meaningful friendship, right? Not about having 400,000 people following you on any social media. Make those friends, meaningful friends that you can trust and you can reach out. And I sound like a broken record, but raise your hand. Raise your hand whenever you want to experiment something, and don't think about that you don't know everything, how to do what the opportunities out there. So if you want to go for college where you want to go, just be yourself in the essay, right? And again, uh, opportunities comes in many, many different ways, Prasha.
Thank you. It was great having you here today.
It was pleasure to be with you, Prasha, and looking forward to continue to see Math Minds growing, and I can't wait to hear more from you.